Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC basketball podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I was having some audio problems just before starting this, so I just wanted to make sure that they were working just fine now. So I just managed to fix them for now. So I am your host, Nelson, here on this very sad Tuesday afternoon because the Lakers, unfortunately, they lost. This is the end of the road for LeBron James, and it's the end of the Lakers season, so no more LeBron for the segments. No, this is probably going to be the last time that I'm going to be talking about him in and unless he tweets something out, and actually I'll probably talk about him for the Olympics, so I have to wait until then. But other than that, this is the end. And it was pretty disappointing the way they went out, I do have to say. But that's obviously going to be the first segment, talking about Denver's win. And then in the second segment, we are going to be talking about Oklahoma being the youngest team to win a playoff series in the NBA. So, and they also were able to win in a sweep against the Pelicans. So that's going to be the second segment. And then in the third segment, we are going to be talking about the Celtics going up 3-1 in the series against the Miami Heat, being able to steal both of the games that were away. And now they're going to go into TD Garden, expected to win the next home game. Now, before I begin, I like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. It is gsmcspodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcspodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and go into the first segment of the podcast, which is going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets being able to. Let me just move this light a little bit closer. There we go. The Denver Nuggets, they were able to finally end the series against the Lakers in 5 games. They won off of another Jamal Murray game winner in the final seconds of the game to make the final score 108-106. And again, just another painful way to go out if you're the Lakers, losing to Jamal Murray again off of another Jamal Murray game winner. It's like it's like the same story. It was wash, rinse, repeat for the Lakers every single time. For the last 3 games, they had to see themselves go up by a lot of points, and then they ended up have to lose in the end. Then they ended up winning game 4. And then in the final game, they had to watch Jamal Murray hit another game winner to seal the game. Now, if you're LeBron had 30 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds. And much like every single time in his career, his team lets him down with the game and the balance. Anthony Davis, who played very well throughout the entirety of the playoff series, had his first pretty lackluster performance with only 17 points. Now, he didn't play bad. He just didn't get enough. He just didn't score enough. Like 17 points in an elimination game. Like, again, he shot 8 for 11 from the field, which isn't bad, but you have to have like at least 20 or 25 points when you're Anthony Davis and you're in an elimination game like that. Austin Reeves ended the game with 19 points, D'Angelo Russell shot 6 of 15 from the field with only 14 points. And LeBron, like I said, 30 points, and he shot 11 for 21 from the field. Obviously was the biggest reason why the Lakers were even a factor in this game. And Gabe Vincent, everyone was hyping up his return. He ended up scoring 0 points, going 0 for 2 from the field. So, yay. And that was basically it for all of the scoring for the Lakers. And Roy Hachimura, he ended the game 6 for 15 from the field with 15 points. So I have no idea what Roy Hachimura was doing the entirety of the series. He was almost a non-factor for the Lakers for like Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, and Game 4. And D'Angelo Russell, he only had like a couple of games where he was really good. He only had 2 games in this entire series where he was good, and in only one of those games was were they able to win. And obviously, like, that was one of the biggest reasons as to why the Nuggets were able to win in this series. And obviously, like, not having a primary defender to be able to guard someone like Jamal Murray is also just not going to help the Lakers whatsoever, because Jamal, he ended the game with 32 points and 7 assists. Nikola Jokic ended with 25 and 20. Excuse me. Aaron Gordon ended the game with 7 points and 13 rebounds. Michael Porter Jr., he ended the game with 26 points. And that was basically it for the scoring for the Denver Nuggets. There wasn't really much confirmation that Jamal was going to play in this game, which was the biggest reason as to why the Lakers had any kind of hope going to this game and expecting them to be able to potentially force this series to 6 games. But once Jamal was like confirmed to be playing in the series, I think it was never in doubt who was going to win. Excuse me. And in Jamal Murray's mind, there was already never in doubt who was going to win, and he ended up taking the final shot of the game, and it ended up going in, making the final score 108-106 with, I think it was like 1.5 seconds to go with 0 timeouts. And obviously, like, since that was the end of the game, there was nothing that the Lakers could do, and the series was over just like that. And the Lakers, like, as a team, they really do not know how to handle this loss whatsoever. Like, Darvin Ham recently in an interview, he at least according to Bleacher Report via Dave McManaman, excuse me if I messed up that last name, but he said, if you're coaching a team and one of your starters is like 10 games in a row just shitting the bed, what are you going to do? That's apparently what Darvin Ham said. And obviously we know who he's talking about. He's talking about D'Angelo Russell, he wasn't playing as well as people expected him to in the postseason compared to how he was playing in the regular season. And because of that, it's like he was obviously one of the biggest factors as to why the Lakers couldn't find any success. But despite his pitiful performance, Darvin Ham's coaching was also getting caught in the crossfire, because while it was obvious that D'Angelo Russell wasn't playing as well as he normally would, Darvin Ham wasn't really doing anything to sort of mitigate the situation any more than D'Angelo Russell was. Like, there was a common trend throughout the entirety of the series where the Lakers would slowly start to blow their lead, but instead of calling a timeout, Darvin Ham would sort of let the Lakers continue to play, and he would never adjust, he would never change the lineups. He would always stick with the exact same lineups. And when you stick with the same lineups, excuse me, when you stick with the same lineups, it just becomes a lot easier as the series goes on for the team to defend you, because since you're only using, like, let's say, like, if you're the Lakers, you're only using seven players from your team, then you already have a game plan set before you go into every other game, because it's like you already know that the other team is only going to use seven other players. And it just makes the game plan a little bit easier. Or even if it's 8 other players, it just makes the game plan a lot easier on how to stop it, and exactly who needs to get the ball when they need to get the ball, this, that, and the other. And another problem that I just read another Bleacher Report comment saying that LeBron James is expecting to retire. It's coming. That's his quote. No idea when it's coming, but that's what he says. I don't see myself falling off anytime soon, but then, like, what am I doing? What more is left? At some point, you got to hang it up. That's what he's saying. I've missed a lot of family time, and they allowed me to do that and never put no pressure on me. That's what LeBron says. So we'll see what exactly LeBron's decision is going to be, because there was also rumors saying that LeBron might decline his player option and decide to become a free agent in this next offseason, and therefore, pick a different team to play with. And if he does decide to leave LA, then it'll be very interesting, like, what team he'll decide to end up on. Now, I'm just looking at another ESPN report saying that a Western Conference executive is saying that Kevin Durant would like to play for the Miami Heat. So another poke at LeBron. He's just copying LeBron's legacy, deciding to take his talents to South Beach. If that does happen, again, that's another thing that is going to happen. That's going to be pretty interesting going into like this free agency. It has a chance to be Paul George could be a free agent, LeBron James could be a free agent, Klay Thompson's probably also going to be a free agent, and we're going to see a lot of players move. Maybe we'll see a lot of players move to different teams. I personally think LeBron should just leave the Lakers. They have done nothing to help him win, and he's just wasting his time there, and he knows it. And not only that, but D'Angelo Russell, he's probably going to be out of LA as well after this performance, and the way he actually graded himself, like, he graded his own season, and he was like, I respectfully think D'Angelo Russell's season was fantastic, or something like that, like something along those lines. He was grading himself, and I'm just like, that's really what he's focusing on after losing the series in Denver. Like, he's really trying to sort of avoid the criticism that he's going to face in this, the criticism that he's going to face based off of these playoff series. And now the Denver Nuggets, they move on to the next round of the postseason. There's still some more first-round matchups that need to be played, and there's still some more first-round matchups that we have to review as well, because, all these series, they ended relatively quickly, and not every series is going to be taken to only 5 games. There's obviously, there's more series probably going to 6 or 7 games, but as of right now, let me just go ahead and open up the standings just to see what team is going to play what other team in the... Okay, so in the next round, the Timberwolves are expected to play the Denver Nuggets in the second round, and the Thunder are expected to play either between the Clippers or the Mavericks. So that is, to be announced. We still need to figure out exactly who's going to win in that series. And for the Eastern Conference, not a single team has yet to win a playoff series for the East. So we still have to wait for the results on the entirety of the Eastern Conference before we can even see what team can match up against what. But there is a chance that two teams could end their series tonight, and that is the Knicks. They could end the Sixers season tonight and win in 5. And the Pacers could also end the Bucks' season tonight and end it in 5 as well. So those are the two elimination games that are going to be going down today. But we're going to be going into the second segment where I talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder beating the Pelicans in a sweep, and obviously, since they and being the youngest seed not the youngest seed, but the youngest team to ever win a playoff matchup. So I'll be right back after this short break to talk a little bit about OKC and the Pelicans matchup last night. So
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this segment, we are going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder being the youngest team to win a playoff series. But before I do that, I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment to get your comments recognized. The link is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. And actually, before I go ahead and talk about OKC, I do want to say that the crazy Lakers trades, they're already starting. Ever since, I want to say maybe 3 years ago or something of that nature, for some reason, a lot of Lakers fans and a lot of Lakers accounts, they like to post the craziest hypothetical trades that could bring superstars to LA, and these trades are so ridiculous. Like, I'm looking at this trade right now, and it says the Lakers receive Kevin Durant for D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Roy Hachimura, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. So, obviously, this is a crazy trade, but, again, it's just a crazy trade. And one of the problems for the Suns is that they are basically stuck with their big three for a few seasons. Excuse me. They don't have any draft picks going into the future, and because of that, they have to sort of rely on Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal for a majority of the for like at least maybe 2 more seasons. And I mean, that could end really good, but that could, so far it's not proven to be good. But this could be like just, a really like a one bad season for the team, because they still need that chemistry to go up. But for that series, I mean, Kevin Durant, he played all right, but he didn't play nearly as well as you'd expect him to. Like, I think for that series in particular, I might as well continue to talk about that series. The co-MVP is between Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. So he ended the series averaging 31 points, 6 assists, and 8 rebounds with 2 steals on 51, 44, and 84 shooting splits with 64 true shooting percentage. And with Rudy Gobert, he ended the series averaging 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 1 steal with 71 true shooting. And obviously, those two, it's between either of those two. Those two, they played a very important role to winning the series. Now, the Devin Booker, he was the best player on the losing team, averaging 27 points, 3 rebounds, and six assists with 1 steal and 49, 35, 95 shooting splits with 66 true shooting. Now, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he was really good off the bench for that series. But Bradley Beal, he was really bad for the Phoenix Suns. He only averaged 16 points and 4 assists with 3 turnovers on 44, 44, and 80 shooting splits. And he also did not play very well in Game 4 for only getting 9 points, fouling out, and getting 6 turnovers and shot 4 of 13 from the field. So it's really the fact that it's really Bradley Beal that's sort of been the reason as to why the Phoenix Suns weren't able to have the same success in the postseason as they usually have. But regardless, I'm sure they'll figure it out towards the end. But with OKC, they seem to be a team that has already figured it out in this postseason, as they are the youngest team to ever win a postseason series. They won this final game 97-89, and obviously, they move on to the next round. It's still decided on who they're going to play between either Dallas or the Clippers. But Shai Gilgeous ended the game with 24 and 10. Jalen Williams ended the game with 24 and 8, and Chet Holmgren ended the game with 14 points. Lou Dort ended with 11 points. And Chet also was able to end the game with 9 rebounds. Obviously, this was a very good performance coming in from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Great performance overall in the series. I think he's definitely, without a doubt, the series MVP. Without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Thunder wouldn't have won that series whatsoever. He finished the series averaging 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 steal on 48, 29, 73 shooting splits, shooting 55% on true shooting from the field. And surprisingly, I thought the Finals LeBron was going to be I call the Finals LeBron the best player on the losing team. I thought it was going to be CJ McCollum who was going to end up being the best player on the losing team, or Brandon Ingram, but instead it was Herbert Jones who finished the series averaging 13 points, nearly 6 rebounds, 1 steal, and almost 3 assists on 39, 33, and 100 shooting splits. Obviously, like, the shooting splits, they weren't really that good. Now, the best player coming off of the bench was Larry Nance Jr., and again, it just really shows just how badly the stars for the Pelicans played in this playoff series. So, excuse me, but Brandon Ingram, he only averaged 14 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 35% from the field, 25% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line on 45% true shooting. So this is obviously, like, really bad. And CJ McCollum, he also did not play well in this series whatsoever. He averaged 17 points. That's how much points he ended off in the series. 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 turnovers, and 1 steal on 42% shooting from the field, 24% from 3, and 100% from the free throw line for 47% true shooting percentage. So obviously he played really, really bad in a lot of the games. And Brandon Ingram, in an elimination game, in Game 4, scored only 8 points and shot 2 of 14 from the field. So obviously that is really, really bad coming in from Brandon Ingram. I mean, 8 points on 2 for 14 in an elimination game. Jesus, I can't speak English. Is just unacceptable. And for the Thunder, Jalen Williams, he ended the series averaging 21, 7, and 5. Chet Holmgren ended the series averaging 15, 8, and 2. Lou Dort ended the series averaging 11, 4, and 2. And Aaron Wiggins ended the series averaging 5, 3, and 1 on 66% true shooting. Everyone that I mentioned before shot at least, or averaged at least 57% from true shooting percentages. And Lou Dort shot 67 had a 67% true shooting, which was really, really good considering how, in the play-in when he, well, not in the play-in, but in the playoffs when he played against James Harden in Houston, he sort of struggled up until the elimination game. And now we've sort of seen, like, the consistency from him overall in this postseason, which was something that was lacking for Lou Dort for a majority of the series. But that's basically, like, my opinions for everybody on this series. And the Thunder, they played very well. They proved most of the haters wrong, where, like, a lot of them were saying, like, oh, this is going to be the Thunder's first series, and we have no idea how well they're going to play, and they're probably going to be they had a lot of doubters. I will say that they had a lot of doubters going into this postseason, but so far they're proving all of them wrong, and that's really, like, the best thing you can ask for when you are when you have a team like this, because when they're this young, and they're still, like, and they still need to, like, develop their skill, but right now they're still winning, it really shows that, like, this team is sort of, like, it's ready for success. Like, it's eventually going to end up in a championship. It has to. And this could be, like, I wouldn't be surprised if, I'm getting email after email, geez. I wouldn't be surprised if this team ends up, like, sticking together long term for, like, 15 plus years maybe, or maybe like 10 at the very least, and they end up becoming the equivalent to the San Antonio Spurs. Because if you think about it, they have all the players in the position to sort of fulfill that role. They have a competent guard in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, similar to how they had a competent guard in Tony Parker. They also have a competent shooting guard in Jalen Williams, similar to how they had a competent shooting guard with Manu. And they also have a very good big man with Chet, similar to how they had a good big man with Tim Duncan. Now, obviously, like, there's no telling how good these players are going to be in the future, but who knows how well they could develop. But that's just food for thought. And with that, we are out of time for the second segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about the Celtics beating the Miami Heat in this next game in Game 4, where they're now expected to play Game 5 in Boston, I believe, tomorrow at 7:30. Excuse me. My bad, I have allergies. They're really bad. But regardless, I'll be right back after this short break, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Boston Celtics series, so stay tuned for that.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back to the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be talking about the Boston Celtics and their series against the Miami Heat. So, obviously, like as I mentioned before, on several occasions on the podcast, the Heat and the Celtics, they do have a lot of history, and there's no telling when the Miami Heat is going to sort of crawl up and beat a team just out of nowhere, unexpectedly. So I wouldn't really put it past the Miami Heat to come back in this series for just a little bit, maybe even for maybe one game or two games. But as of right now, the Celtics are up 3-1 against the Miami Heat. And when you're up 3-1, that's essentially it's not as much of a death sentence as being up 3-0, because multiple teams have come back from 3-1 more than they've come back from 3-0. In fact, no team in the history of the NBA has ever come back from 3-0. There have been teams that have been able to force it to 5. There have been teams that have been able to force it to 6. There have even been teams that have been able to force it to 7. the Boston Celtics being one of them, but there has never been a team that was able to close out that series in a comeback win to come back 4-3 from being down 3-0. So being down 3-1 is a much more, like, I guess you could say, reasonable comeback to sort of like believe that it could happen, because it's just much more feasible. Like, we've seen it happen way more times to sort of believe that there is a good enough chance that it could happen yet again. But given how good this Boston Celtics team really is, I don't expect it to happen anytime soon. Like, I genuinely do not, because this team just seems way too good for anything that any of the Miami Heat players could throw at them. So right now the Celtics, they won the game 102-88, and obviously this was a very strong defensive game coming in from the Celtics, forcing the Miami Heat to shoot 9 for 33 from 3. So after that one good game from 3 that they had in game 2, they have been unable to repeat that, and since they've been unable to repeat that, it's sort of been the downfall of the Miami Heat. And the Celtics capitalize on that by making more three-pointers than the Miami Heat. They shot 14 of 37 from 3, so that's obviously much better when you're looking at how much they made, and percentage-wise as well. That's 10% better. Derek White, he ended the game with 38 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Lionel Messi was also in attendance for this game, and he's going to leave the game thinking that Derek White is the best player that the Celtics have, because 38 points, that is a very good performance coming in from Derek White. He ended the game shooting 15 of 26 from the field and 8 for 15 from 3. And Jaylen Brown ended the game with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Drew Holiday ended with 11 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Jason Tatum ended with 20 points and 11 rebounds. And Porzingis ended the game with 7 points and 3 rebounds. However, here's the problem. Porzingis had to leave the game early because he got hurt. So there is a slight chance that he might not be available for the next game for the Celtics. And Jason Tatum, I believe he also got hurt from Bam Adebayo in a not when the game was going on. It was sort of like outside of the play. And if I remember correctly, he was also sitting out for the remainder of the game. But there's also a slight chance that he might decide to take a little bit of a rest and sit out in game 5. But we'll see sort of like the injury reports and how that's going to look. But as of right now, it doesn't really seem like Kristaps is going to be available for this game. And I'm not entirely sure if Tatum will be available, but I'm more confident on Tatum being available than Kristaps being available if you are the Celtics. Now, if you are the Celtics, that was basically it in terms of scoring. Like, it was basically just the starting lineup doing the things that the starting lineup usually does. And their bench wasn't really that strong in this game. Al Horford played 34 minutes, but he only had 7 points. But he did get 8 rebounds. But those 7 points, I mean, he did end up shooting 3 for 5, so I guess he did fulfill his role good enough. But I would expect you to get a few more points if you're playing that many minutes, but I digress. Now, for the Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo, he ended the game with 25 points and 17 rebounds. Tyler Hero ended the game with 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Caleb Martin ended the game with 18 points. And that was basically it for the scoring in terms of the Miami Heat. Corrido in the chat. He wants to ask a basketball question. Go right ahead, ask away. And while I continue with this little recap of the series, so I really think that the Celtics are going to end up winning out this series. And when the Celtics win out in the next game, even without Kristaps, they still have Al Horford, and Al Horford has been a very integral piece for the Celtics for a while. And don't even worry about my Lakers. My Lakers will be fine. It's just LeBron. Now LeBron needs to win a gold medal, and then we'll be fine. That's the goal now. At least now we don't have to worry about LeBron skipping the Olympics due to a deep playoff run, because that was sort of a fear that I did have, because a lot of players, it wouldn't be the first time when players would sort of pull out of the Team USA roster because of how well their team is doing in the postseason for basketball. Shaq did that before, and because of that, I wouldn't put it past any other player to do the same thing. So let's see. So his question is, in basketball, my neck whiplashes a lot, and what can you do to stop that? I honestly have no idea. I genuinely cannot tell you. I genuinely have no idea. But yeah, so the Lakers, they lost embarrassingly, and what makes it worse is the Celtics are gonna end up winning too, because the Celtics have a much better team, and this is sort of a new era, it feels like, for basketball, because a lot of the old players now, they're sort of either struggling or they're losing to a lot of these big young players, and it's right now the only team that has a bunch of veteran former all-stars and I guess you could say I guess you could say veteran all-stars, but some of them were almost an all-star this year. But Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers with Paul George, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, those guys, I feel like they're sort of the last team of the, I guess you could say, the sort of old generation of basketball. And now you have sort of this new generation of basketball that's sort of running these playoffs with the Denver Nuggets, the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Celtics, and let's see what other teams. The Knicks as well, and let's see what other teams are probably going to. The Pacers. They're probably going to end up going deeper into the postseason as well, and between the Magic and the Cavs, which are also a relatively young team, but it's these young stars, they're really taking over the playoffs right now. And again, the Clippers, they're really the only team that has a bunch of veteran players that have been good for a while and are the only team that are still in contention to sort of stay alive in the postseason. So that's just a little thing that I wanted to. And they also play on the same day as the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat play their Game 5 to close out their series. Well, they play the Celtics. They'll play their Game 5 in TD Garden, giving them a much better chance to beat the Miami Heat in 5 games and cement their and move on in the playoffs as they advance, obviously, because there's no, I genuinely expected the Celtics to advance in this series. It's bound to happen. Again, we just really have to see the injury status with Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis. But other than that, there's really, I think there's nothing that the Celtics need to really worry about for this game and, for the next game. And for the Miami Heat, it's really, it's unfortunate that they didn't have their best player with in Jimmy Butler, because I really feel like Jimmy would have helped this team make the series a little bit more competitive. And I guarantee you, a lot of it's kind of ironic how injuries are sort of the reason why both the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks can't find success in this postseason. Even though, there's a little bit of tension between the Bucks and the Miami Heat, simply because, the Miami Heat were expected to get Damian Lillard in the offseason, even though, but then, Damian Lillard was then traded to the Bucks in the offseason, and there's sort of been tension, and now that both players are injured, it's sort of geez, this was unfair. Now it's both of those teams are going to have to try. They're most likely going to run it back again simply because of, their injuries. And they, obviously, it's unfair to blow up the entire roster simply because not everybody was even on the entire roster when the playoffs were happening. So I don't expect the Miami Heat to blow up the roster yet again, but I do expect them to maybe get a little bit more help in the offseason for Jimmy. But that's basically all I have to talk about for this third segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fourth segment, where I do a playoff preview of all of the playoff games that are going to happen tonight. There's going to be 3 playoff games that are happening, and 2 of those games are going to be elimination games. So I will be right back after this short break to talk about them, so stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be doing a little playoff preview of all the playoff games that are going to go down tonight. Now, I said there are going to be 2 elimination games, and they're both going to be happening on TNT. And the third one is going to be another game because that series is tied 2-2. So the first game that's going to be happening is the 7 o'clock game, which is the Knicks and the Sixers. They're going to be playing Game 5. The Knicks lead 3-1 against the Sixers, and they go into New York with home court advantage to close out the series in 5 games. And I have New York winning this game. They've shown that they're just simply like the better team, like overall. And while both of the teams, like, I mean, they do rely heavily on like Joel Embiid if you're the Sixers and Jalen Brunson if you are the Knicks, because Joel Embiid is averaging 35 points and Jalen Brunson is averaging 33 points. And the real difference maker for this series has been the bench production and the rest of the helping cast for each respective team. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, he's been really good for the Sixers, but that's sort of been the only other bright spot for that team. And you can't, in this, I guess, like, now in this sort of era of basketball with, and with this Knicks team, you sort of, like, you can't have just 2 players doing all of the work, because this Knicks team is going to, as they've shown recently throughout these series, they're going to punish you with their effort on the boards, their effort getting all these second chance points, and also their scoring effort for like from Jalen Brunson, as well as some of the other players that graduated from Villanova, I should mention. And there's also a little bit of like, excuse me, these allergies are killing me, but there is also a little bit of like turmoil in Philly because of Villanova. And Villanova, they congratulated the rest of the players on the Knicks, like, you know, Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart. They congratulated a lot of their players on the Knicks because, I mean, they did graduate from Villanova, and they are like rather like respected in the Villanova fan base. But a lot of Philly fans, they didn't like how Villanova was sort of praising them, given how Philly and the team for Philly is in a playoff series against the team that they're on. So it's like, I somewhat understand like why a lot of these Philly fans are like really upset, because it's like when they're on our team, yes, we like them, but when they're not on our team, we don't like them. But it's sort of different when you're talking about colleges, and I really think that it shouldn't be something like, it shouldn't be that deep, in my opinion. But I still have the Knicks winning this series. Now, I think Joel Embiid, he might like, you know, make it a little bit difficult in this game. I don't expect him to go out without a fight, but I do think that the Knicks and the rest of the players on the team, they're just that much better than the Sixers and the rest of the players that the Sixers have on their team. So next game on the list is the Magic going up against the Cavs. Now, this was the game that I said wasn't going to an elimination game, since the series is tied 2-2. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they won both of their games in Cleveland, and the Orlando Magic ended up winning both of their games in Orlando. And now the series is going back to Cleveland to see if Cleveland can go ahead and win it at home yet again, and hopefully move up the series 3-2, and then play that elimination game in Orlando. But the way this series has gone, it can sort of go it could sort of go 2 ways. It could go the way that it's been going for the entirety of this series, with each team that has home court advantage taking that home court advantage, or the Orlando Magic, they continue the same sort of scoring prowess that they've had, and they either steal a game or they steal a game and then they win another one to win in 6. Because the last few games that they've played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they've all been blowouts. And honestly, like, the entirety of the series has all been blowouts for the home team. And, like, I understand, like, it sounds like that trend is going to keep going, but the blowouts that Orlando is giving Cleveland is much, like, the lead is much greater of a blowout than the lead that the Cavs have over the Orlando Magic when they're blowing them out. And one of the big surprising stats of the entire series is that the Cleveland Cavaliers haven't scored 100 points in a single game of the playoffs yet. And that, I'm getting a lot of emails, but that stat is sort of like what I think is going to be the difference maker in this series, because of the fact that this Cavs team hasn't been scoring 100 points, but this Orlando Magic team has been scoring 100 points, and they've figured out sort of like the problem with their scoring, and they've changed how their offense is going to operate. And I feel like they have a really good chance of being able to steal a game since they've, like, upped their scoring. Because, like, with the Cavs not being able to score 100 points, I don't think it's reliable. Like, I understand defense is more reliable than offense in a playoff series, but I genuinely, I do think that this team is going to, this series is going to be reliant, and it's going to come down to the team that's able to continue to score. But that's basically all I have for that game. But we'll see who wins. I have the Cavs winning. Like, with all that being said, I do have the Cavs winning this game. But I have the Orlando Magic being able to win the next game and then maybe steal Game 7. So that's what I have happening for this series. And then we have the next elimination game, which is going to be the Pacers up against the Bucks in Milwaukee. So this game's going to happen at 9:30. Now, the Bucks, they do not have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they don't have Damian Lillard in this series anymore. So Indiana's going in as favorites, despite the fact that they don't have home court advantage. They're going in as 4.5-point favorites. So for all of you that like to bet, those are your odds right there. And I think this is the end of the road for the Bucks. Like, I don't see them winning this series out whatsoever, and I don't see them winning this game without having Damian Lillard or without them having Giannis. So I think this is basically it for them. Like, Tyrese has played pretty well in this series. Pascal Siakam has also played pretty well in this series, and the lack of Dame and the lack of Giannis has hurt this team before. And even with Dame in the roster, they still lost a game. They could have made the series 2-0 before going to Indiana, but instead they had to drop the last game, even though they had Dame in their lineup. So this Indiana team, it's like, obviously it's going to come down to, like, which team can score the ball more, and I think the Pacers are going to end up being that team, because now, since, like, not only, like, are they missing Giannis's scoring production, but they're also missing his defense. And that's obviously, like, another aspect of Giannis's game that isn't really overlooked, but it's when you're looking at his scoring, like, that's sort of like another underlying factor, I guess you could say, because defense isn't really taken as seriously as being able to score the ball efficiently. And but despite that, Giannis is still, like, one of the league's best defenders, and he's one of the league's best players on the offensive side of the ball as well. So this team definitely, like, it would have had if Giannis was there, he would have been able to help not just on the offensive side, but he would have helped on the defensive side as well, to sort of slow down the Pacers' offense and be able to contest the ball whenever he needs to and be able to play that defense if he does need to. But since they don't have him on either side, they're really lacking in the production. And I don't really see I do not see the Pacers losing this series, and I don't really see them losing this game either. So I think this is going to be the end of the road for the Bucks, and the Pacers are going to move on to the next round, and the same thing for the Knicks. So both of those teams, I feel like they're going to move on, and when they both do move on, those are going to be the teams that are going to be they're expected to match up against each other in the postseason when they both move on. So the Pacers, they're expected to match up against the Knicks in the next series, and the Celtics, they're expected to match up against either between the Cavs or the Magic, depending on who wins that series. So, obviously, I say the Celtics because I think the Celtics have the best chance of winning the series, and I don't know between the Cavs or the Magic who's going to win, so I'm just, throwing that up in the air for grabs. And then, obviously, the Knicks and I feel like the Knicks are going to win in the series, and the Pacers are obviously going to win in the next series. And so it's going to be the Knicks and the Pacers going up against each other in the semifinals, the Eastern Conference semifinals. And that's basically it for the playoff preview, and that is basically it for the fourth segment, and that's the end for. So thank you all so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. We also would like to remind you to please use the link in the description or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment to get your comments recognized. It is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. And that is basically the end of the show. Thank you all once again. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit.